and you'll know. Now, the last topic I want to talk about is a couple of op-eds that were in the news last week concerning President Trump. Now, one of them was overshadowed by the other, so I'll start with the one that was overshadowed. And this was written by Chuck Todd, an NBC reporter. And this op-ed basically argues that Trump has demonized the media to a point where they are now considered the enemies of the American people. And this isn't new. It started out with Nixon and especially got really crazy with Fox News. So Todd says, well, it's all Fox News' fault. You know, Roger Ailes and Rupert Murdoch, they came in, and what was the problem? Well, they saw all this coverage they didn't like from the mainstream press, so they created their own enterprise and they balanced the truth. So that's the phrase that Chuck Todd uses. He says they balance the truth. They basically are creating a conservative bubble, a conservative echo chamber to rival what they perceive to be the left bubble, left echo chamber, and they are spinning the truth. They're subjectivists, and so we as journalists need to take the high road and fight for objectivity. That is what Chuck Todd says in the op-ed, and he says journalists have to fight for this, fight back for this. Now, what do I have to say about this? Well, I don't think he's sincere. I think it's a little silly. It's like the kettle calling the pot black. I mean, Chuck Todd is a member of the media, the mainstream press. Okay, if you look at a lot of these journalists, they are leftists. They are left-wing sympathizers, and almost all their writing, they attack capitalism, they attack America, they attack conservatives, and there is no balance. They mix facts with their own distorted perception, and the whole time they're arguing that truth is subjective. I mean, a lot of these people are coming out of universities and are taught by intellectuals who are themselves either Marxists or postmodernists, who believe truth is impossible. They're basically skeptics. They think that everyone has their own perspective. There isn't truth. There isn't objectivity. They think there's white truth and black truth. There's male truth and female truth, gay truth, straight truth. There is no truth. I mean, these are the people who go around saying that gender is a social construct, or capitalism is a social construct, or socialism is a social construct. They think everything is a social construct. Okay, social construct. What does that mean? It means created by the human mind. It means that it doesn't exist in reality. There's no basis for it. It's arbitrary. And here we now have somebody who is an acolyte of that way of thinking, someone who has pushed that agenda and been a part of that cabal for years, saying that he wants objectivity. Why? Because someone in the White House he disagrees with got elected? That's ridiculous, and it's insincere. If you really want to attack the premises that underlie Fox, Trump, and the conservatives, which, I agree they have real problems and they are not attached to the truth, then attack the subjectivity. Don't try to argue for your own brand of subjectivity and then pass it off as objectivity. Chuck Todd in his article even goes so far as to say journalists' job, the media's job, is to basically create, he says that word, create a set of shared facts that everyone in the society can agree with. And that is the democratic process, and that is how a democracy functions. Wrong. First of all this talk about coming together and creating shared facts, humans don't create facts. Facts are a result of a human consciousness processing objective reality. Okay, objective reality exists independent of us. It's there independent of what we think, right? Now, we interpret it, we perceive it, but that doesn't make it subjective. It doesn't make it created by our mind. We don't create we don't create a version of everything we see in our head. We perceive it and we can integrate it properly or improperly. There is a right way to think about things and a wrong way to think about things. And that's what objectivity requires. The collectively subjective is not objective, and that's what Chuck Todd in his op-ed argues for. I'll put a link to this op-ed in the show notes. The other op-ed, of course, is this Lodestar op-ed written by a high-ranking anonymous senior Trump official. Now, I call it the Lodestar op-ed because the word Lodestar is used in it, and Lodestar, of course, is a reference to the North Star. It's supposed to be a guide for ships when they're in dire need, and this person is saying that he is essentially a member of this silent resistance that are trying to undermine Trump and basically prevent his policies from being enacted in the name of a steady state. He basically argues that We need more McCains and fewer Trumps. And this, of course, is coming on the heels of McCain's funeral, where the left and conservatives of the Bush variety attacked Trump. Now, again, I'm not a fan of Trump. I do think most of the accusations of the Lodestar op-ed, Chuck Todd, and the forthcoming book of Woodward on Trump, that he's arrogant, that he's irrational, that he's a pragmatist, he's not fixed to any principles, that he's not long range, that he's range of the moment mentality. I agree with all that. I think that from what I can see as an outsider looking in, based on what I've read and what I've seen in the media and what I've seen him do, I imagine he's a pretty good dad, he's a terrible husband, and he's a really bad boss. I can imagine all that, and I think that's the case. But that doesn't excuse somebody who claims to be on his side coming in and supplanting him behind his back and pretending that they're doing the right thing in some shadow cabal elite that isn't even elected. These people are not elected. I mean, if you're a fan of democracy, and I'm not, I think democracy, as Benjamin Franklin once said, it's two wolves and a sheep deciding who's for dinner. We live in a republic, not a democracy. Democracy doesn't set limits or parameters on what can and can't be voted for. In a republic, you have rights. Those rights are enforced by the government. You can vote on minor policies and who holds offices, but you don't vote on laws to decide who gets what right. That's ridiculous, and that's why our system is falling apart. But if you are a believer in democracy, even you should find this Lodestar person to be loathsome, because they are unelected and threatening the what was decided by the majority of people who voted in this election. Now, I will say that it's a little odd. The timing of this op-ed is unusual. Why did it happen now? Why didn't it happen a few months ago or even earlier this year? Why didn't it happen when we were on the brink with North Korea a few months ago, when, there was all this war of words? Why? I mean, I don't know. Why did the Times publish it? Here's another good question. I mean, if this person is a Republican and wants to rein Trump in, their motive may be to separate Trump from the Republicans that are running in the primaries or in the midterms in a few months. But that seems terribly misguided, because the people who voted for Trump voted for him not because he's a conservative, but because he's different from the other conservatives. They voted for him on populist grounds. So you're not going to convince any Trump voters to vote for somebody else on the basis of this op-ed. You may convince some of the moderates, but I highly doubt it, particularly if you don't reveal yourself and you continue to work for the guy. I mean, put yourself in those positions. Everyone else has worked for people they don't like or boss. Confront them, and they often will get a different job. If they find that it's no good, they'll get a new boss. They wouldn't hide. They wouldn't in a two-faced manner go and steal papers from his desk and do all kinds of things to confound his agenda. That seems to me a huge violation of his trust. So again, not a fan of Trump, but I am also not a fan of this Lodestar development. I think it is ominous for our country, and I think it's not a good development, no matter how you slice it. So that's all I have to say about that. I'm sure we'll talk more about it. I don't know if this person will eventually come out of the wings or be unmasked involuntarily. It should be a dramatic thing either way. But this video has gone on for quite a while, so I kind of want to wrap up with just one final observation that ties these things together. So we talked about Colin Kaepernick and how Nike, even though I think it's wrong to do what it's doing, is a private firm who can employ who they want as their spokesperson. We talked about big tech and how what they do for us is huge, immense, immeasurably good, and they're attacked by both the left and the right, Sanders and Trump, for different reasons, but essentially similar ones. And finally, we have these people in the press who billow and wax and wane all day about objectivity when it suits them, and they're subjectivists to the core in their day-to-day dealings with the American people and with each other. So what are the common threads here? Well, I want to end on this note. We hear a lot about the so-called resistance to Trump, how you can either be a Trump supporter or you're a resistor. You're a member of the resistance, right? Like straight out of Star Wars, right? You're a rebel. You're like Che. You're a modern Che. The thing is, those are phony resistance rebels because they all agree with Trump on essentially the points that matter, which is that capitalism is out, the mixed economy or some variation of socialism is in. Individual rights of companies don't matter, because if they either publish search results we don't like, or they make too much money They're too wealthy. There's too much wealth inequality. We don't like that either. I mean, these firms should pay for what their virtues are, is what these people are saying. So there's a hostility to business. There's a hostility to individual rights there. There's a hostility to free speech. I mean, these same people who are arguing for taxing Amazon also want to cut campaign finance spending. They don't want people who have money to have a voice in politics. They want to cut. They want net neutrality, so they want to cut out the property rights of internet service providers who built all the infrastructure that serviced the internet in the first place. I mean, these people are hostile to the very idea of individual rights, both sides. So what I want to leave you with today, the core premise, aside from all the minor and important points I made throughout this video, is that if you want to be a member of the true resistance, the true force that is fighting statism in this country, you should go for those who advocate for individual rights and liberty. You should join the good guys and not join one of the two camps of the bad guys, which is what we have today when we're given the choice between Trump and the resistance. So that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it, even if I got you angry, if I got you incensed, if you're frothing at the mouth and you need some bit to bite on. Well, for one thing, you can come to me with your dental bills later. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. But it's not good for your teeth. But I will say, I look forward to hearing from people who have good and bad things to say. If you think the content was good, but the video quality was bad or the lighting was bad, come forward and tell me. If you think you want to hear about other things I didn't mention, if you think I was dead wrong on something and you want me to correct it, or if you want me to address a question, feel free to email me. You can check the show notes page to cut to any one of the major points I began in this video. You can email me, which is also there. And I provide a couple of links to some of the op-eds and issues that I talked about today, so you can follow up on your own if you really want to vet what I said. In any case, thank you so much for listening. Have a lovely afternoon, and see you later. Hi, Rob here. Did you like what you saw? If you're really interested and want to see more, click the link below and check out my YouTube channel to see full episodes of the One the Many videocast. Thanks. Hope to see you later. Bye.